friends, Jacob is here. Thank you once again for spending a little time with me and for pressing play and for, just being how awesome you are, being my friends and my, my viewers and my confidants. And thank you for subscribing. It really means a lot to me. And for those of you that share these videos around, wow, thank you. I really do mean that from the bottom of my heart, because this is important stuff that we're talking about. And this week is probably the most important of all, because it has to do with manipulation, mind control, things that are happening to you on a level that you're not even aware of. And it's forcing you to do certain things that you might not do otherwise, whether it's, maxing out your credit cards or signing up for some kind of government program that actually takes away further rights. Spooky stuff. Today, we're talking about it. The Brain Initiative, right? Obama started this back in 2013. Right around the same time that, there was an amendment made to this law. There was a law, by the way. You probably heard of propaganda against people. Like, you think of North Korea and their TV stations are always, promoting whatever the agenda is of the dictator. Well, that can't happen here, right? Wrong. It is happening, and on a regular basis. There was an amendment made just a couple of years ago that allows the government to basically use all forms of media to control us. We saw this with the election, the Democratic election, WikiLeaks. I mean, it was so transparent. They even called the newspapers like our papers and our networks. And we saw how sold out the media is. And why wouldn't it be sold out, right? Because it is owned by the corporations and run by the corporate-owned government that has an agenda. And that agenda is making each and every single one of us their slaves. Yes, that's right. We can never get ahead because they want everything from us. And that's why today we're also going to be talking about what was just passed. 21st Century Cures Act. Yeah, you like that title? Cures Act, right? More mind control. You give the title to something that's really fraud. You give it a good name, the Cures Act, right? Obamacare. Really, Obama cares about us. You got to sign up, right? Well, if you buy into it and you buy into the propaganda, you think everything's okay. Well, these things are not okay. And it's coming at the expense of everyday people like you and me. And today we're going to get into that as well. We're going to start off with mind control, and we're going to really dig right in to some things that you don't even know about. I mean, this stuff, it's been happening for a long time. Back in the 60s, right, when TVs would go off the air. Now, this is spooky stuff. This is like They Live stuff. It would always say, and now the national anthem, right? And then they would do the sign-off. And you would see the national anthem scrolling across the screen. But what you didn't know, because back then we didn't have, DVRs and we couldn't slow footage down, was that there was a subliminal message that was being scrolled right in front of that little wipe. When the letters were wiping off the screen, there was another set of words that was coming across. That's right. Like, government is your God. Obey, consume. Rebellion will not be tolerated. Spooky stuff! And if that was happening back in the 60s with the technology that they had back then, can you imagine the sort of control that is being blasted every single day in every single way upon you and me? Today's show is off of the chain, people, right? So let's get off of them chains and let's break free. And it's the truth that's going to do so. It's time to renew your mind. So buckle up, because we are about to enter the mind control zone. Now, when you think of mind control, you think of programs like the MK Ultra program, where people were using basically trauma. You've heard of people blocking out trauma from their youth. Well, what happens when you're subjected to things that are just really very disturbing? What happens is your brain kind of sections off that event, and it kind of blocks you from accessing it. It kind of keeps you from being able to enter into that really sad moment. And they found out that through trauma-based mind control, they can get anybody to do about anything. And this isn't just like, this isn't just conspiracy talk, people. I mean, this was a CIA program. One of our presidents actually apologized for it.
Thousands of government-sponsored experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. Some were unethical, not only by today's standards, but by the standards of the time in which they were conducted. They failed both the test of our national values and the test of humanity. When the government does wrong, we have a moral responsibility to admit it. The duty we owe to one another to tell the truth and to protect our fellow citizens from excesses like these is one we can never walk away from.
And they were doing that with psychedelics, and they were doing that with abuse, and look, it's still going on today, and if you think that it's not, you got another thing coming. But there is mind control, and then there is, this kind of subliminal stuff that is happening every single day. I love when I enter into a grocery store. There are ways that the mind works, and you don't really pick up on it, but there are these subtle things that, big corporate chains have learned through research. Like when you enter into a, say one of those big stores that you're going to go get your groceries at, this big grocery store, big chain. First thing you see is flowers, right? They don't really sell a lot of flowers, but pretty much every grocery store, you're greeted by all of this fresh stuff. Because subconsciously it tells you that it's fresh right now and it's about to perish. So that kind of gets you subconsciously into this frenzy where you need to buy, and you're going to probably spend a lot more money than you were originally, because now there's that seed that's in you that says, uh-oh, you better get it while it's here and while it lasts. There's other things. Look, if you have children, and I do, I got 4. I have 4 beautiful children, and my youngest, Ethan, who, by the way, picked out the winners, and you're going to get your books. Ha! Right on. Thank you so much. It was really cool.
All right, so I'm going to do it randomly, and you tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay, point to somebody. What we got there? Okay, Daniel. Scroll.
Stop.
Okay. Point to somebody. Go ahead. Kama Sutra. Okay. All right. I'm going to tell you what that means. All right. That's a great pick. Tell me when to stop. Okay. Shannon Swanner. All right. You all winner. Thank you so much, Ethan. Did you have fun?
Yeah.
That was awesome, dude. All right. Thank you again. Everybody's going to love the books.
You'll be getting your books in about a week, people. That was because I hit over 50,000 subscribers. Very happy about that. But I continue. So when I bring Ethan to the store, when we walk through that cereal aisle, of course, he's like looking all around, right? And he's pointing to all of these really bad cereals, these things, these processed sugary foods that are really bad for you, which is why we're probably the most obese nation in the entire world. But, the advertisers know that the children, they're like yay high, right? So their cereal boxes, all these cartoon characters, if you take a look at them, they're always looking down. Their eyes are focused down. And why are they focused down? Because little Ethan is down here and he's looking up. So when he passes by, it actually looks like the cartoon character is looking at you. Manipulation, people, on a grand scale. The Brain Initiative, okay, that happened. I mean, Obama made it sound like this was just the best thing since sliced bread, right? But really, what it's about is more control, understanding how the mind works and how to better serve the people, right? Through mind control, getting people to do what's best for them instead of giving them a choice, you know? So that's what's been going on. And DARPA actually just created this, this amazing gadget, right? Where they can actually implant this chip into soldiers' heads who have lost their memories, and they can actually implant memories, get people to think a certain way, and recover old memories. Kind of spooky. Another way to control people is to control the flow of information, right? Mind control on a massive scale. So how do they do this? Well, they introduce things like Common Core, and and they have companies that produce all of the educational material that our children, who are, going to learn over the next how many years. They're very impressionable and they're a captive audience, and they are taught to think a certain way and to believe a certain way. And if you don't think that that Pledge of Allegiance is a form of mind control as well, then you got another thing coming, because it's a proven fact that when you sing together with people, guess what happens? Well, you get this bond and this unity. And every single day, if you're reciting a mantra and you're saying, I pledge of allegiance to this flag, blah, 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 and you go on and on and on, and you're saying that every single day, guess what happens? It becomes a memory. It becomes something that you can't really change. It's called cognitive dissonance, right? So once you're taught a certain way and you're taught to believe a certain way, if the truth is actually presented, you're going to rebel against it. That's why when, people were told one thing, when somebody found out that what they were told was wrong, they would usually burn them and call them a witch, right? Well, that's because cognitive dissonance is it's real and it's powerful. And the people in control, they understand this. They know how to push the buttons. And they know that you will push the buttons, right? Since you were a child, okay, you were taught to basically listen to, without question, all authority. From the teachers to the police to anyone, your parents. You were taught from a child that you had to do what you were told. If there was an authority figure standing there telling you to do it. There was a great, this was a really cool, it messed people up. It was a test. I believe his name was Milgram. He really wanted to get to the bottom of why the Nazis could get just, moral people to do horrible things. And so he created this experiment. And in the experiment, he would have people standing in front of something and he would ask them questions. And if they asked, a question and it was answered wrong, the person asking the question would administer a little shock. And as the test progressed, the shock would get more and more and more painful. Now, what the participants didn't know was that it wasn't real. So as they were being told, ask the question, and then they were shocking the individual on the other side would start screaming and go, ow, it hurts, ow, please stop, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. And every time, okay, about 75% of the time, the people who weren't happy with administering the shocks continued to do it just because somebody with a lab coat said, continue, continue.
In order to understand how people were induced to obey unjust regimes and participate in atrocities such as the Holocaust, he set up an experiment. Volunteers were told they were taking part in scientific research to improve memory.
Would you open those and tell me which of you is which, please? Teacher. Learn. Teacher.
Separated by a screen, the teacher would ask the learner questions in a word game and administer an electric shock when the answer was incorrect. He was told to increase the voltage with each wrong answer.
Cloud. Horse. Rock. House. Answer. Wrong. 150 volts. Answer. Horse.
Experiment. That's all. Get me out of here. Get me out of here, please.
Continue, please. Go right on.
I refuse to go on. Let me out.
Refuses to go on. The experiment requires you continue, teacher. Please continue.
Participants didn't know that the learner was really an actor and the so-called shocks harmless.
You're gonna get a shock. 180 volts.
I can't stand the pain. Let me out of
Can't
here.
stand it. I'm not gonna kill that man there. I mean, who's gonna take the responsibility if anything happens to that gentleman? I'm responsible for anything that happens here. Continue, please. All right, next one. Slow. Walk, dance, truck, music.
Two-thirds of volunteers were prepared to administer a potentially fatal electric shock when encouraged to do so by what they perceived as a legitimate authority figure. In this case, a man in a white coat.
375 volts. I think something's happened to that fellow in there. I don't get no answer. He was hollering for less voltage. Can't you check in to see if he's all right, please?
Milgram's findings horrified America. They showed that decent American citizens were as capable of committing acts against their conscience as the Germans had been under the Nazis.
Look, there are some really powerful people, right? And they know how to get you to do things. They know how to get you to get to that mall and stampede the doors to get that one sale that they could offer you every single day of the year. They know how to manipulate you. Words have power, right? Little words, like if you want somebody to do something for you, it's a proven fact that if you just basically say because, like if I ask you, hey, do me a favor, will you share this video? If I said that to you, you may do it, you may not. But if I said, please share this video because it'll mean a lot to me, or because this information needs to get out, you are quite a bit more likely to share that video just because. And why is that? Well, when you were a kid, you were told by your parents, go to your room. And when they said why, the answer was because I said so. So we have subconsciously taken that word and we've stored it. And when we hear because, we just basically accept things. There are other words that you'll find a lot of politicians using, words like imagine. Imagine this and imagine that. Obama is good at that, especially when he was trying to pass this brain initiative. Imagine a world with this. Imagine a world with that. It's called pacing and leading.
There's this enormous mystery waiting to be unlocked. And the Brain Initiative will change that by giving scientists the tools they need to get a dynamic picture of the brain in action and better understand how we think and how we learn and how we remember. The budget I will send to Congress next week, I will propose a significant investment by the National Institutes of Health, DARPA, and the National Science Foundation to help get this project off the ground. Imagine if no family had to feel helpless watching a loved one disappear behind the mask of Parkinson's or struggle in the grip of epilepsy. Imagine if we could reverse traumatic brain injury or PTSD for our veterans who are coming home. I don't want our children or grandchildren to look back on this day and wish we had done more to keep America at the cutting edge. I want them to look back and be proud that we took some risks. That's what the American story is about. That's who we are. That's why this BRAIN initiative is so important. And if we keep taking bold steps like the one we're talking about to learn about the brain, then I'm confident America will continue to lead the world in the next frontiers of human understanding.
When you are told things in a certain set, in a certain order, your brain cognitively takes that information and will accept these leading lines for what they are. That's why we hear politicians repeating themselves again and again, because another form of mind control is repetition. Like when Hillary was, she was caught for being a liar, right? Well, what was her excuse? She kept bringing up Lincoln. She must have said Lincoln like 5 times. Well, Lincoln, well, why did she say Lincoln? Because we associate Honest Abe with Lincoln. And if we can, hear that again and again and again, our brain will pick up the fact that she's an honest person.
Right. As I recall, that was something I said about Abraham Lincoln after having seen the wonderful Steven Spielberg movie called Lincoln. It was a master class watching President Lincoln get the Congress to approve the 13th Amendment.
It's no wonder the BRAIN initiative is in works right now. Well, here's the really spooky thing is last year, I talked about this in my last video, Obama, an executive order for behavioral science. So they have this new team, right? This super secret team. Well, it's the social and behavior science team. And what they do is they've basically taken all of these behavioral insights, they study the brain, they understand how it works, and they know how to then orchestrate. They basically know how to then, pull your strings and get you to act a certain way, to think a certain way, to be a certain way. And that's what they're doing. Scary is the fact that they want these initiatives implemented in every single avenue of the government. From education to the military, you name it. It's all psychological warfare, right? And it's been going on a long time. I mean, we already know that you can actually, from outside signals, like with magnets, MRIs and things, we understand that you can use certain signals to get the brain to think a different way. Oh, it's even scarier than that. The nervous system manipulation by electromagnetic fields for monitors. U.S. patent number 6,506,148. This deal, right, has to do with emitting these frequencies that can actually brainwash you. I mean, let's not forget the fact that your TV, as it is, already puts you into a highly suggestive state. So does your computer and your phone. How about them apples? And how does this happen? Well, guess what? Your TV, it's not just a static picture. It flickers. Okay, it's like a flicker, and it happens so fast that you really don't pick up on it. But what it does is it's actually timed, right? This is spooky. It's timed to mimic your alpha waves. And what are your alpha waves? It's kind of like when you meditate, right? When you start to meditate, you get into this relaxed, trance-like state. Well, that's what happens when you watch TV. You are so highly suggestible that it's all done on purpose. You ever walk by a young child and they're sitting there and they're like with their mouths wide open? Why are they doing that? Why do their mouths gape open? Because they are in a trance-like state. You ever try to pull your kids or your spouse away from the computer or their phone? It's hard to do. Why? Because you are kind of brainwashed and glued to this thing. And when you're in that state, basically, you don't use critical thinking anymore. So you could be told about anything and you just accept it as true. Oh yeah, that's right, fake news, right? I mean, people, see, here's the thing. If you know the tricks You can't be played like a fool. That's why it's important to understand that just because the TV says certain things, and just because they are telling you that this is happening a certain way, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's happening the way they are telling it. You have to research this for yourself. You got to take everything with a grain of salt, right? I'm not a news source. I'm not a news organization. Don't take your news from me. I just like to talk about things that are, I believe, to be important for all of us. I like to talk about things that I think you should be looking into too. You need to question. You need to think. You need to not allow fear to rule you. That's another thing. And they use it well. Remember that trauma-based mind control? Well, when you're being told of terrorist activity all the time, right? And you're being told of weapons of mass destruction and nuclear weapons and war and this, that, and the other thing all the time, you get into this frantic state where you're into this lowest form of thinking, the brainstem. That's the reptile. That's the snake hanging from the tree, right? You brainstem, your fight or flight. It's not your higher thinking. You need to get into a place of peace and then think. You can't just react all the time, people. That's why our country has invaded how many other countries? Because, we're fed the story. We're fed the story that, there's weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. We blow the country up, and then we find out that it never really happened, right? And Bush makes jokes about it. How many people suffered? How many children lost their lives? How many lives are ruined? And the elite, well, they're just drinking their champagne. So the newest thing that I really wanted to talk about is this latest bill that just went in. It's called the 21st Century Cures Act, and it's a big bill. Now, here's what the press may not tell you. This is what the TV's not telling you. It was the most lobbied bill out of like tens of thousands of bills before it. In other words, drug companies spent more money trying to get this thing passed than anything else. So while they're selling it as, oh, you can use this and this is going to make the world a better place and it's going to make it easier for you to get this and easier for you to get that. Remember we heard that with Obama? Care, mind control, right? Now we got the Cures Act, more word magic that they're throwing at you, trying to trick you. But you know what? Not every senator is falling for it. They understand that now drug companies are going to be able to basically prescribe their drugs for diseases that may not even help. Doesn't even matter anymore. Now they can get these kickbacks and I don't got to tell them that anymore. Doctors, they can prescribe medicine and they don't have to basically be transparent anymore over whether or not the drug companies are paying them to do so. This senator was nuts about it. Elizabeth Warren. I'm not a big fan of hers, but I'm definitely with her on this. Listen.
Mr. President, I'm glad to be here with my colleagues today to have a chance to talk about the 21st Century Cures Bill. We had a chance to bring down the skyrocketing cost of prescription drugs. We had a chance to support medical research so we could start to cure diseases like Alzheimer's and diabetes. We had a chance to help coal miners whose health care is on the ropes and who are running out of time. Unfortunately, the Cures Bill introduced in the House last week didn't do any of those things. Instead, it was a typical Washington deal, a deal that ignored what voters want and held a bunch of common sense, bipartisan health proposals hostage unless Congress also agreed to pass a giant giveaway to drug companies, a provision to make it easier for drug companies to commit off-label marketing fraud, taking pills that are approved for one use and using them for a whole lot of other purposes without any evidence that it's either safe or effective. A provision making it easier for drug companies to hide the gifts they give to doctors who prescribe certain drugs. A giveaway to a major super PAC donor who stands to benefit financially from pushing regenerative therapies through FDA, even if they don't meet the FDA's gold standard for safety and effectiveness. You know, this bill isn't about doing what the American people want. This bill is about doing what drug companies and donors want. And on Monday, I made it clear that I oppose this. In Washington terms, backroom negotiators have turned the Cures bill into a Christmas tree loaded with handouts for special interests, all at the expense of the taxpayer. Boy, got that one right. This kind of backroom dealing that helps those with money and connections and leaves scraps for everyone else is why people hate Washington. And it is the reason I will oppose this bill.
We are sitting back, living our lives, just trying to get by, right? We're being brainwashed from birth, you know, by the TV, by the media, by everything around us, from, you know, school. I mean, we're bombarded with manipulative, deceptive control techniques. That's why you can't put your little child in front of the TV. They say that it actually can cause brain damage. So they're not supposed to even watch TV by the time they're 3. There is an agenda, people, right? There's an agenda. If you think that the sexual revolution happened just, you know, on its own, it didn't. They knew that they had to break up the family unit, right? If you can break up that strong family unit, then you know, it's once again, it's divide and conquer. Sexual revolution, it was an operation, a psychological operation. Everybody fell for it. The drug revolution, any so-called revolution, like the thing that's going on with Soros and his supposed, you know, protesters against Trump. These are all operations. They're all these puppet masters that are hiding in the shadows, and they're getting all of us to just fall in line and do what we're told. And we do, because why else wouldn't we, right? We're put in this trance-like state. We're fed information that isn't true, and we're fed information that's meant to get us emotional about it so that we don't think critically, but we act and react, right? False flags, they happen, people. They happen. We went to Vietnam on a false flag, and America was fed a lie that we were attacked, but we weren't, right? There were no weapons of mass destruction. False flags happen. We're being told things that aren't true on a regular basis, and we're all basically powerless, it seems, to do anything against this beast system. And the sad thing is, we're buying into it, right? We want that next newest technology so we can be logged in and chipped, right? Cashless society, I did a video on biometrics. Check it out. It's already happening. There are already countries that have no cash anymore. We are going to be 100% dependent on the system if we aren't already. If we don't wake up and take charge of our lives and start thinking critically. We need to wake up, people. We need to live for more. We need to stop being scared all the time. And we need to stop being such fools, right? We don't need the latest, greatest technology. We don't need to put ourselves in more debt, right? Christmas, it's a wonderful thing, right? But it's a marketing tool. Valentine's Day, it's a marketing tool. These are all manipulations bent on getting you to spend money that you don't have so you can become a bigger debt slave than you are already. So this holiday season, I hope that you use better judgment. I hope when you're in front of the TV and you're listening to CNN or Fox or whatever news agency it is, that you take it with a grain of salt and you understand that these networks have been caught with their pants down, lying to you and manipulating you more times than you would believe. And this whole sham, this fake news sham that they're trying to sell you right now, don't buy into it. Stand up for yourself. Speak up for yourself. Vote for people that care about you and your interests. And start to love your neighbor. Come together as a community. Don't break up with your husband or your wife. Don't split up. Don't give up. fight for each other. Just because the television on a regular basis is brainwashing you into thinking that an empowered woman is a woman who just goes and does whatever she wants and doesn't have to be tied down to a man anymore, or an empowered man is somebody who doesn't need to be bossed around by his wife and he can just live any way he wants. We are lied to, people. Our children are lied to, and we are being manipulated, and we are being ruled by people that only care about one thing, and that is keeping you in your place and keeping you far from the heaven that's supposed to be right here, right now. But you can take charge of your mind by renewing it. The truth is going to set us all free. In any event, I hope that this episode has opened your eyes to the many, many lies that are coming at us in each and every direction. And I hope that you do subscribe, because it'll mean a lot to me. Then you see what I just did there? A little mind control. Don't be mind controlled. But you want to know something funny? About 45% of you are going to be singing "You Are My Sunshine." I did that last week too, because you know what? I want you to feel good. And there are these little things that our brains pick up on that, these little things that our brains pick up on that may be subconscious and they may be just right below the surface. But if you're not paying attention and you're not looking, you'll never know it's there. Don't be manipulated, people. Don't be deceived. Take charge and let the truth set you free. And I love each and every one of you, and I will see you again next week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.